Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, episode 202. I am your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gail from Communities Digital News, um, Daniel from the Inscriber, Jacob from Jab Hook. Of course, Siggy was on here. I'm assuming he'll be right back. May have to step out for a minute. For those who are new, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, live YouTube show, podcast, and blog discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. The bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, we will talk about it. You want to find out all information regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, blog page is the place to go to. P4P Boxing Report .wordpress.com .wordpress.com is the link, excuse me. You check the right of the blog page, you will find links to where to listen to the show, links to the pages and channels, excuse me, on Facebook, G Plus, uh, face, G Plus, Facebook, uh, Twitter, Tumblr, and also where to listen to the show on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Player FM, and Mixcloud. Let's get the show started this
And don't
evening.
forget MySpace. You know.
It may be,
Friendster.
it may be MySpace though. Particularly given the problems with Facebook and all that controversy, you never know.
Yeah.
Let's get the show started by recapping what went down this weekend. Want to focus on in NY vacant WBC junior welterweight title or super lightweight, depending on how you want to call it, division. Jose Ramirez fought Imam for that vacant belt. Very good bout. Imam got off to a good start early, but my fears was kind of validated. My question was, how would Imam handle a situation that was similar to the way he lost his first fight to Granados, fighting a guy who could take his shots and fight back. And that's what happened essentially. Imam, he stayed tough throughout. I give him credit for going the distance with Ramirez, but Ramirez over time was able to take the shots of Imam, was able to adjust, put on the pressure, kind of swarm, overwhelm him. I thought the fight was a little bit closer than the scorecards indicated. That 120-108 scorecard, that's ridiculous. Just throw that out the window. I think it was 8-4, maybe 9-3 on the other two scorecards. Ladies first, I'll go to you, Gail. Your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, it was a sad thing for, I think, most of us on the panel to have our judgment realized, which is that Amir Imam, who we thought was a tremendous rising star, did not reach his potential. Can he still? Is going to be the big question. But after the performance he had this last week, where he had every opportunity to stage a great fight, he just couldn't muster up what it took. Due credit to Jose Ramirez. He is a rising star. He has effectively swapped places with Imam and a few others in the division. He's got a great backstory. He's charismatic. He's driven. He's got the right kind of fan-friendly aggression. It's a what's not to like scenario with him. Imam is just going to have a tough road from here. He stayed out of the ring a long time. That didn't help him. When you fall off the horse, unless you're seriously injured, you need to get back on, and he didn't do that. I'm going to let that take the blame for him, because he seemed in his early days when he started coming to our consciousness to have every tool in the world in and out of the ring. And, it just never bore fruit. We're going to talk about another fight where a guy with a lot of promise, couldn't realize his potential. When we're talking about Felix Verdejo, very, very similar category, except I'm not sure he ever had as good a performance as Imam did a few times. It'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. He's got some, really tough soul searching to do about what happened, because that was not the fight he intended to give the world. And that was a shame. But happily, on the other side of the aisle, we have someone in Ramirez who we can really look forward to seeing, who seems to be absolutely the real deal. If he can draw fans outside of Fresno like he does there, where he packs the arena. He's got a very nice little career ahead of him.
I'm going to open up the discussion about the future of the junior welterweight division in a bit, but I want to focus on this fight itself. I see Scorsese has joined us. Is back. Going to you, Scorsese. Your thoughts on the fight with Ramirez and Amir Imam.
Good little fight. One man had more than the other. You know, like Ramirez, although he looked dog tired in portions, he had more dog in him, more fight left in him than the later rounds, throwing harder punches. Dictating how the fight was going. More so than the mom who came out maybe in the middle round, maybe the eighth, and they told him to break him to the body. And a mom did it. He didn't look comfortable though. Like he throws his body shots and he's still kind of open. His left hand is always his lead hand is always still low. He's still paying for that a lot of the times. He's not fast enough to be trying to shoulder roll punches. That's one thing. And then Ramirez was, I thought he was quick as he was. Like I had nothing new about him in this. I knew exactly what he was. A guy who would throw them punches in bunches. You give him double left hands, whether it's uppercut, hook combination, or whatever it may be, he's going to throw it and he's going to get that to you if your defense is slow. So Imam needed an adjustment of, a defensive adjustment, keeping his hands in better position so his speed wouldn't be vulnerable. But he didn't make that. And then if anything else, give it a little more heart. I'm not saying to have none, but at time it looked like he conceded later. And at first, the problem with Imam is you can punch. Put a little more on it. Like people take these finesse styles when they can really punch, and it's like, man, some of these guys who fought finesse do these things because that's kind of all they can do. They can't get respect. They have to be superior in a skill set, some kind of different skill set than a power minded style. A mom don't seem to have that problem. It makes me so upset to see him, just defense first. Defense first. It is upsetting, but to Ramirez's credit, he saw that shit and he said, "You know what you do to somebody defense first? You don't complain about them running after the fight or about them not trying to fight. You overfight them." And Ramirez done that shit. So credit to him. And I think he should. They both pretty big, but Ramirez, more importantly, you the titleist. Keep making that weight, be disciplined, and good things might come.
Going to Jacob and Daniel. Your thoughts on the fight?
It was a good, entertaining fight. I picked Ramirez, like I think a lot of people did, because we weren't sure about him on. But for me, Ramirez, he really has to tighten up that defense. He gets hit way too much, and he got stung a few times by Amar. And I think if he steps up his competition, he's a tough guy. But kind of like how we were talking about Oscar Valdez, there might be, he might be in too many tough fights, and his shelf life might be, shortened. So hopefully he sharpens that part of his game, because he has the tenacity. And he throws a lot of punches, and he seems like a good fighter, but I just worry about him getting tagged so much.
Daniel.
The fight was a lot more entertaining than what the scorecard said. Because Ramirez did come in, but Imam was showing that first his jab is still out. His jab is still nice and crisp at time. And in the eighth round, he showed that he can counter, try to change the plan. The only problem was that when he made the adjustment, Ramirez made the adjustment. And he didn't have, unfortunately, he had a plan B, but he didn't have a plan C. Now, it still shows that Imam is still has a skill set to do something 140, maybe not be top level champion. Although I'll say in confidence that I think he could probably beat the winner of Terry Flanagan and Hooker. But I don't think he would be like a top echelon champion. But it could be somebody like probably within the lower ring of the top 10 that'll give a good prospect or give a good champion a tough night, but not really come out on top. Overall, though, when it came to Ramirez, he showed, especially when it came to the 12th round, when he wants to finish, he'll do his best to finish. And even though he wasn't able to like knock out Imam, it shows that he has the tenacity to do it. And considering his mandatory now, he kind of needs that tenacity. So everything should be looking good for the man.
Speaking of that mandatory, like I was saying earlier, want to talk about the future of this division with Bud Crawford moving onward and upward to 47 to fight for the belt, going to fight Jeff Horn later this spring, maybe early summer. That bout has been postponed for a bit because of a hand injury to Bud. Let's talk about what's left at 140. You mentioned the mandatory Daniel Regis Progress, who we talked about last week. He won the interim WBC belt at 140 pounds. Looked very good doing it. He was in the building last week. Matter of fact, there's a clip of him on YouTube um, going to Bob Arum, talking about when that fight could happen. In subsequent interviews, it seems to be discussions with him and his people, Regis and his people. They want Regis and Ramirez on the same card to eventually set up a future fight. Regis is like, no. When you look at him, when you look at Regis, when you look at Ramirez, let's assume Mikey Garcia decides to stay at 140 pounds. You got Relic, potential to be some very good fights at 140 pounds. And I'll just open up for anyone here who wants to comment. Where do you see the future of this division going post Bud Crawford?
The truth is it's kind of a free-for-all. Everybody who wants...
Gil, I promise. I was on mute and I said free for all. Shit, that's scary. Shit, that's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. And we do this frequently, actually. You know what? We either agree, my friend, we either agree 110% or we disagree 110%. We have no happy medium with the two of us. But yeah, isn't it? It truly is. Those belts just all got scattered to the wind for the taking. And, good on the guys and their promoters who can get them in position to have these fights for open belts, and let's see where they all scatter and go from there. I have to say, some of these very ambitious youngsters coming up, I really like. What do you think? You got Prograis, you got Ramirez. I like the fact they've been aggressive to get right out there and snatch those belts. That speaks well for them, just for their attitude.
The guy I thought had most skill, he showed he didn't have the most fight a week before with Bartholomew. And I didn't think he would going into it. Got to see more from Prograis. I promise. I literally said, shit, free for all, but I was muted. And it's just true. It's also a division that if Loma, Linares, or whoever, if they can move up into that, it's nobody that just looks like I'm gonna take my time to stay where I'm at type of division. You know what I mean? It's nobody there that makes you just think he's a solid possibly one of the best 140 pounders ever, like you may think of Spence. Like some people see him that way. So it's a division that might get more fun as names come up. That aspect is there. Relic looked damn good and throwing punches in bunches, but Ranchek, Mikey Garcia mandatory. That's where he's going. It's beautiful. And I agree with Prograis. The hell with me stepping aside. I want to fight for Bob Arum. He has another mandatory that we're going to talk under his promotion that we're going to talk about later. He has some similarities here, and I think he wants these people to grow. Prograis, good move. The hell with that. You the mandatory fight for the belt. I'm going to be coming at that neck. That next time you on Bo's show, I'm going to be coming at that neck. I need to see you fight for a title.
Daniel and Jacob, your thoughts?
Well, Prograis does have the talent and he does have the tenacity. to do something at 140. And it looks like he does have a good amount of power for the division. Ramirez, like I said, now champion. Like I said, he does have good amount of tenacity. He just has to work on his stamina from time to time.
Yeah.
And one of the other champions, like I said, Relic, he's shown that he can keep up a good steady pace. Even like Sergey Lipnitz, even though he lost the title, so he shows that he can actually box pretty well.
He's still a player in the division, Lipnitz.
Yeah. Like I said, he looked really, really good. Like he showed that he could do adjustments. He just was lucky. He was just caught with a good punch from Mikey. Bartholomew, I'm not going to consider, unfortunately.
Nope.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to consider Bartholomew.
You don't got to be sorry. You're 100% right. That was some bullshit he put on.
And on top of that, and then when you look at, like I said, look at the other champion. When you look at the other champions, like I said, Relic's going to be good pace, like I mentioned. The only thing that's available at the moment, and that you can pretty question, is Hooker and Flanagan. Anybody could try to get it, whether it would be even Ivan Baranchyk. Ivan Baranchyk is now the mandatory technically for Mikey Garcia, and Mikey Garcia technically has until today to decide what to do.
Yep.
So if something happens, Baranchyk can actually easily go after the winner of Flanagan. I said Flanagan and Hooker, and probably win easy. Same thing with Lipnitz. So it is pretty open. And let's not forget, I didn't even mention Victor Postol, who, like I said, is one of the better technical fighters in the division.
We got to see him in the ring again. He's been out too long. He's
That's the
becoming
whole
irrelevant.
point.
Once again, we have some psychic stuff going on. I was just going to say, we haven't seen him. We don't know what he's capable of. And
that's the whole point. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the reason I didn't even mention it, but I just remembered him.
Well, and I don't really want to see, if he shows me the most recent version of himself, consider me not interested. I'm sorry, I'm just not interested. He's not a good enough technical fighter to be interesting as a technical fighter. When somebody's going to fight like that, I want to see extreme craft, and he isn't there.
I see Bo from Truth and Facts about boxing has joined us. I'm just going to give you an update, Bo. We're talking Ramirez and Imam, that fight, and we're also talking about the standing of the junior welterweight division post Bud. I'll go to Jacob first and give his thoughts on the future of 140 pounds, and then I'll go to you, Bo. But first, Jacob.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I mean, to me, it's an open field, but I actually think somebody will probably come up from lightweight, and they have a good chance of snatching that belt, or being a player in there.
I'll go to you, Bo. I'll just give you some time to give your quick recap of Jose Ramirez and then Amir Imam, and your thoughts on the future of 140-pound division with Ramirez, with Prograis, Relic. Let's assume Mikey Garcia decides to stay there for a while. Your thoughts?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, the Imam Ramirez fight went exactly how I thought it would go. The book is out on how to beat Amir Imam. He seems to think when I've seen him in a recent interview before the fight, he thought he didn't have to do nothing different. That the Granados fight, he wasn't feeling well, but so the book seems to be out on him. Talented fighter, but he just don't have that sense of urgency to get himself going. So Ramirez won. He just showed he wanted it more. He wasn't more talented than Imam. He was just more determined than him. He was willing to pay whatever price needed to win, and that's what happened. So, but the 140-pound division is wide open. As you know, I interviewed Regis, and he's not stepping aside. He's not talking about some taking a fight, fighting on his undercard because he feels like he should have been in the championship fight, considering that Ramirez was ranked under him. So he felt like him and Ndongo should have been the championship fight, or even Imam's. But he's definitely looking at Ramirez's food, and he's determined. He's like, I'm fighting for the title because I've waited too long. I want my title shot. So we'll see how that goes. But the 140-pound division is wide open, and I agree with anybody who have said that division is open. Victor Postal, he had one fight after Terrence Crawford, and he just looked at fucking horrible. The guy he fought almost beat the crap out of him. So, but Relke, Relke looked good, but who was shocked about how he looked against Rance Bartholomew? Rance Bartholomew abandoned the way he's supposed to fight. He didn't fight tall at all. He gave up his height. He gave up his reach. So, Relke, he fought the same. It was just a different version. It was the first fight, just a different outcome. They got the right judges this time. But that division is wide open. I don't know what Mikey Garcia is going to do. I think somebody indicated he has to fight that dude Ivan, who's his mandatory. So we don't know what he's going to do. And then that Maurice, Hooker, and Flanagan, whoever wins that fight, both of them dudes is food to me for anybody, because I'm not that high on Hooker and I was never that high on Flanagan. So either one of them dudes is food for somebody. So it's a high ass division. And I know I heard a lot of people say that Regis should calm down, but now I agree with him. If you think can't nobody mess with you, you're supposed to say that, hey, these dudes can't fuck with me. And when you look at the division, he kind of has a point. So I like it, man. Hopefully somebody will emerge, the man out this division.
That's what ambitious and hungry fighters. That's how they're supposed to act. That's how they're supposed to act. You want to if you feel that you can get it, go get it.
I like ambitious guys.
Don't let these other folks tell you that you're not deserving. That you should wait your time. If you feel you can get it, no.
Don't you think though that tells us a lot about the state of boxing in this country, that we want these guys to sit around on the bench and wait their turn? No. I love that attitude. Let a guy reach for the stars. Maybe he falls short, but maybe he doesn't. And then we get something really exciting. Or maybe he's a little overly ambitious. He finds that out, but he learns something early in his career that pays off down the road. It's all good. There's just no downside.
Especially in this case, because like I said, Regis, he was in the building, and if I'm him watching Ramirez, I'm looking at myself and say, I can beat this dude. I can beat him.
Yes, or at least be extremely competitive. I mean, there is no obvious downside at all, and they're both good talkers out of the ring. They both have a great story. I think they'd be fun together. The more we talk about it, the more enthusiastic I'm getting about it. And I was pretty enthusiastic before.
Yeah. And to point something out that Regis said, which is funny, he said two things. Number one, he wants everybody to remember he picked Julius Ndongo when Victor Poster pulled out. And number two, the reason why he don't want to fight Ramirez, because he doesn't feel, on an undercard, because he doesn't feel like he's an undercard fighter. Why would I go from main event to undercard? And I gotta agree with him. If I just fought a main event fight, why would I go to fighting on the dude's undercard? I want to be in the main event, and I like that attitude.
Indeed. Let's move on to the undercard of Imam and Ramirez, Gvozdyk versus Amar. I didn't know much about Amar going into the fight, and based on what I saw of the fight, I wasn't that impressed. Gvozdyk, he did what he had to do to get the win. I'll go to you, Bo, and then you can follow up Scorsese. My impression of the fight, well, in looking at the fight, my thinking was at the end of the day, Gvozdyk, of all the lot at 175, the Stevensons, the Bivals, the Kovalevs, who am I missing here?
Jack Alvarez,
Jack Alvarez, even Beterbiev. I'm looking at Gvozdyk and I'm saying to myself, he's a level below. First Bo, and then you, Scorsese.
Well, you're being nice when you say a level below. You're being very nice.
I am.
You're being nice when you say a level below. I'm not gonna be so nice. He don't move his fucking head. He got no goddamn defense. He's flat-footed as fuck. He's slow and motherfucking methodical. He's stand up, which means his chin is in the goddamn air. I mean, shit. There's a list of things, and I keep going on about the show when I saw the fight. Listen, he beat the guy he was supposed to beat. He didn't look spectacular doing it. But if I'm his team, like what I saw when I saw him fight, I understand why they haven't been pressing any championship fights with this dude. He don't beat none of these guys. He beats none of these dudes holding fucking belts. He beats absolutely none of them. So if I'm his management team, I would take my man back down to 168 because at 175 he's food for some fucking body. At least at 168, maybe he has a bit of a better chance. I don't know. You know, David Benavidez and Ramirez aren't as seasoned as some of those other dudes. But at 175, man, this dude is an L waiting to happen. I mean, I was just sick with what I just
Groves
couldn't
will
believe.
wipe
I'm
the
like,
floor with this dude at 68.
I just saw this and I'm like, this is the dude everybody been high on? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Man, I was no. They can take that, you know. I no, they can take that back. You know what I'm saying, to the dressing room because that suit ain't done.
I'll go to you, Scorsese, and anybody else who
It,
want to follow up, please do.
he's the WBC mandatory, and I spoke about it earlier. What Top Rank just said they didn't want Ramirez to jump in there. Understand, Ramirez just performed so much better than he did. But I will give Gvozdyk this: it has been hit or miss with him. Like some opponents, I won't say Chilemba. People feel he blew Chilemba out. I did not agree. I thought Chilemba gave him a tough ass Dillian, and one time he wobbled him and buckled his knee a bit. But you saw Karpinski. People disagree with me. Karpinski came in 10-day notice and he dropped him. Gvozdyk, to his credit, got up and noticed, you know, how to beat him. 10-day notice. You may turn it up. He can't. He didn't lose a round in this fight. Maybe he did. But the task was whoop his ass. All right. And you do have to notch him down a little bit because you know the praise for him has been a little too high. He's probably not better than Bivol. But at the same time, that division is deep, and any given night, he might land something from across the damn street, just like a lot of them people can in that division, and knock your ass out. Because he's done it. He's set on a punch before and put a man night, and he can continue to do it. But you know, the amateur system, he don't throw body shots. You're right. When he's on the inside, that's what got him with Karpinski. He stand up taller than a Christmas tree at Tony Soprano house, and he get his ass cleaned the fuck up. He does not get off the line sometimes when he's throwing punches. Some people look at his combination, they see him jump to the side after a punch and consider that, oh, he has great movement. Well, he's only really moving in those instances. Other times it's straight lines with him every now and then. He can be a much better fighter, but I don't know what it's gonna take, man. Some of this shit is mentality. He could be an old dog already. I looked at Bob Arum's comments on it, and he was saying we have dates on ESPN, so we don't have to push for a mandatory. We're not going to wait. We're going to keep them active. My thing with it is this, just like Prograis is doing. When you are the mandatory, champions do not chase you. You chase a champion. To me, you need to go eat his food, or he could just be doing whatever the hell he want to do, and he'll forever be your champion. So I got on the Bob Arum with that, but Gvozdyk came out himself and said he wants the shot. Now it's a battle of promoter versus fighter. Did they see enough? I hope they did because, you know, hell, I want to see fights, and he needs to fight the winner of Stevenson Jack and improve on his performance. That's all he got to do.
I'll just open up for anybody here who wants to comment. Please do.
I have to say, I'm sitting here listening to Bo talk about Gvozdyk. You sound like you're lecturing one of your kids. of which I know you've had much practice. And, you know, it's not misplaced. I think he does need a lecture. I think he needs to have someone wake him up. And I can't help but wonder if he's riding the coattails of all the other successful guys up there in Oxnard. You know, he's around a lot of talent, a lot. And he benefits from that aura of invincibility and that mystique they have going on up there. He's being taught by, you know, trained by Papa Lomachenko. But he is a very methodical guy. He's not a guy with a temper. which can sometimes work against you in boxing. And I agree with you that the spark that somebody needs to be at that elite level, like a Prograis, it's not in Gvozdyk's nature. He is the quiet guy. He is, of all the brothers up there, all the Eastern European brothers, you know, he's the quiet, steady one. I mean, he's the guy you would rely on if you needed to call someone at 2 a.m. and bail you out. But
Oh shit!
I'm sure that. Well, you know, we all know somebody like that, right? Right?
Oh shit! That was
Somebody like that. But you know, I'm sure it serves him that well. And
Jacob,
by the way, you can all call me at 2 a.m. I'm good for it.
Jacob, Daniel, your thoughts on the Gvozdyk win? Are we being no, I was going to ask, are we being too harsh? But no, we're not. Go ahead.
He did what he was supposed to do against a fighter that he was supposed to do it with. So it's not really that impressive, unfortunately. And like Bo mentioned, like there's enough now gaps in his defense. Now we're seeing it that maybe we got the translators wrong. Maybe Bibble's people were actually Gvozdyk's people. And there was when they were saying, "I'm not ready for a champion. I'm not ready for a champion yet."
Mm.
We never know. Like I said, they do run in the same circles. So the main thing that has to happen, though, is he's technically the first of the mandatory because the WBC likes to do this 2 mandatory system. So he's the first mandatory of the Stevenson-Jack winner. And then Elder Alvarez is the second mandatory. Whether we get there, that's another question. Because obviously, X Limas does have a lot of clients. He does have a lot of fighters that are within that division. They're also his clients. And one of his MOs, unfortunately, as I keep forgetting, I thought I was getting excited when Bietavev signed, is the fact that Klimas' clients don't fight each other. He makes sure that they don't step in the ring together. So there's not a lot of options there for him. He's in the right sanctioning body to do it in, to challenge either Stevenson or Jack. And you might as well do it if you're top rank, chase those down and let Kovalev and Bibble fight among themselves, and even because I don't think Bietavev signed to Klimas. You can throw him. You might try to throw him to Bietavev if he starts slacking off a bit. But yeah, like I said, I saw the fight yesterday. I was disappointed because it looked like he was starting to get high, but he's starting to remind me of Zurdo, of Gilberto Ramirez, unfortunately, where the guy just barely does enough to win. He doesn't look good while doing the level of opponent. And maybe, like I said, maybe the great hope is that he gets an Abraham type opponent and he'll truly shine. But then there's the worry, like we saw with Zurdo, that he can muster that performance, unfortunately, on a consistent basis. But we have to see. He has the opportunity to do it. He has to capitalize on it.
Jacob, your thoughts on Gvozdyk's win and Gvozdyk, the fighter?
I mean, not too much more to add. I mean, he, like Daniel said, he did what he had to do. His opponent shouldn't have been, formidable, and he took care of him. But I mean, it just is what it is. Not everybody could be contenders at the top of the division, no matter what their promotion or coaches or whatever everybody says. It's proof's in the pudding, and we know what we saw and we know what we're seeing. And I don't see him being a big player there. I mean, he might get a opportunity to fight for it, but I just don't see him rising to the occasion.
I would say are you finished, Jacob?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, don't count him out all the way. And I know he got to fight Adonis next, and Don't count him out. That motherfucker's 6'3", and he ain't some slow poke. You know, things can happen overnight, and they have happened in nights past with him. But I'll be honest, the last 2, 3 times, maybe it's time he feels like, step up this level. Maybe that's it. Because he's saying, put me in there and I do something. Bob is saying more like, I don't know yet. So maybe he feels himself, the level opponent got to be there. He has been an A-level prospect, and he deserves a shot. But Daniel could be right. None of us mentioned that Top Rank is trying to make a play for Beterbiev, even though they trying to keep lids on it. They actually introduced it to the people that they signed them. Then they backed off on that when Yvonne Michelle said, "Nah, not yet." But that could be the fight instead of the mandatory because it's in house. But at the end of the day, he's in position and he ain't as bad as we made him. He just he didn't stink it up all the way. He just didn't make it smell good either.
Problem is, you got to show it. Problem is, you got to show it. And he's not a
Night
guy
after
with the
night.
personality.
Yeah, night after night. He has it night after night,
He's not
but
one of these guys who can get away with that because he doesn't have the personality to make him a cash cow.
mhm,
So you got to show that. He's not showing it his last couple of fights.
mhm.
Plus the competition. If the competition isn't great, then what can he possibly do to impress us?
Like I was saying, when the lights get brighter, some people get bright with it. You know what I mean? When it steps up, maybe I'm telling you, I know he's fighting a dinosaur Jack next in the rankings, and y'all know how I feel. That dude has a shot in that fight. He has a shot in that fight. The man has real range. He can fight. He just saying he's not showing it versus some of these opponents, but maybe you
Until he
take
gets a curse.
yeah, no, maybe you take more risks with him and he's more comfortable with you doing that. Like this guy was, he was sneak attacking in ways. I just cannot give up not believing in him at all. Like something is there, man. Something is there. He got some skill
I'm
set. Look at the amateur record. He has something.
I'm not saying not to believe in him, but what I am saying is this: if you're gonna try to sell me that this dude is next, or this dude is, he's coming from that European background with and all of that, and he's riding them coattails, and I got to see more than what I saw when he fought. And also, if you're telling me, well, he's fighting to the level of his competition, then I'm gonna judge him off what I see, because until I see you fight somebody where you do raise it up, I'm gonna have my doubts that you can raise it up if this is the best you can give me for what I saw. You
That's
know,
fair. That's fair.
completely no head movement. You learn head movement. All these amateur fights, they teach you head movement. I saw completely none. And a lesser guy was landing a solid right hand on him, flush, several times. That's not supposed to happen with his pedigree. And that's my only issue.
I see. I want to shout out to the chat room. I see it's getting very heated in the chat room here on the live show. Yeah, a lot's being said, and I'll just leave it at that. Um, let's move on to some one more fight before we start with the news and breaking down what's happening this weekend and beyond. Listen, when I did the show last week, when I came up with the docket and all that, I knew Felix Verdejo was fighting, making his comeback. I didn't think enough of the fight and the guy he was fighting to put it on there. In hindsight, maybe I should have, because not only did Felix Verdejo lose, he got stopped. Got stopped by Antonio Lozada Jr. I think in round 10, no, round 11, I believe it was. Shout out to Miss Fight Lady, who was tweeting about it Saturday night. I have not seen the fight. I've looked all over for it. Apparently, Bob Arum was too embarrassed to put the fight up or allow anybody to put the fight up. But I'll go to you, Jacob. Listen, if you follow the career of Felix Verdejo, even though this was a surprise, even though the outcome was a surprise to many, if you look at Verdejo and his career in and out, should we really be that surprised?
Not for me. I was never really that high on Verdejo, and I think he I'm trying to find the word. He doesn't benefit from the fact that he's Puerto Rican. Tito, who was a great champion, had built up that kind of Puerto Rican name within the recent memory, and then Cotto, even though they didn't really take to him as much, he was still a talented guy. and they kind of he was supposed to be the next like heir apparent to that, and I think that maybe it was a lot to put on him. But of course, he also went through a very bad motorcycle accident, and sometimes if it's bad enough, these guys don't recover well. So he should have blown this guy out, but I think they were trying to give him a gimme fight, but I mean he didn't. So maybe it could be a combination of the accident and did he really recover or has he fully recovered, and then the fact of just I never thought he was really all that great. He had big shoes to fill, and I didn't think he was going to be the one to do it. So I don't know. He's got to do a lot of soul searching, obviously. He hadn't looked good in his previous fights either, or he wasn't like looking great. I think the fight he had in Puerto Rico. So I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but
your thoughts, Daniel?
Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah. Oh, what can you say? First, it was actually the 10th round. It was a 10-round fight. And in that 10th round, he was getting beaten up pretty bad. Now, let's go over the entire scenario, what happened. He was getting beaten up. He got knocked down. The referee didn't really stop the fight on his own volition. He stopped it at the behest of the ringside doctor. And interestingly enough, he was up on the scorecards, on 2 of the 3 scorecards. Now, like I said, his opponent would have won either way because of that knockdown, because it would have turned the fight into a 10-8 round. So, either way, the other guy was winning, but I get like Verdejo's people were angry that the referee stopped the fight. He should let him continue, but unfortunately, this is a side effect of Top Rank really, really doing well when it comes to building up Olympians. There's always one that they may do too well in trying to build up and trying to protect them. Verdejo may be it, because we know 2-3 years ago he was starting to come up. People started to like what he was doing. He's climbing up in the rankings, particularly in Top Rank's favorite sanctioning body, the WBO. And it looks like Top Rank, as soon as they saw that Verdejo was high enough in the WBO rankings where he could challenge for a title, really stopped challenging him. That's when you start seeing the fights where like he was in Puerto Rico and he's fighting, and then they blatantly say a Brazilian hairdresser. And you top that, you've got the accident. You have the situation that's happening right now, unfortunately, in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And it's a recipe for disaster.
Let me say that. Speaking of Puerto Rico, this show was happening at the same time of a ESPN card, and give a shout out to Oscar, who during an interview while we were doing the show mentioned the situation still with Puerto Rico and the hurricane, and it's still ongoing. But proceed, Daniel.
Yes. Oh, and let's not forget, he's actually going to do a card. It's a joint promotion with Miguel Cotto Promotions on the island, promoting Cotto's good, decent prospects at super flyweight.
Yes.
But unfortunately, that thing is unfortunate when it comes to Verdejo. That's the thing. I think they built him up a bit too well, and once they realized he was high enough in the rankings, and this may be a consequence of the fact that of who was the champion at the time of the belt, Terry Flanagan, and they probably saw him as a very easy victory for Verdejo. They just stopped challenging the kid, and he got complacent, unfortunately. Like I said, but I mentioned, like, the situation with Puerto Rico, the accident, it all adds up. Like, he has, as much as sad as it is, like I said, it's one of those situations where if he wants to better his career, he probably has to leave the island. He may need to go to Freddie. He may need to go to Orlando. He may need to come up here, hooked up with Rosier or hooked up with Robles. Get somebody that could get him back because the skill set is there. We know the skill set is there. But it just seems like the desire is no longer there. And that's really, really bad when it comes to a fighter, especially a fighter who an entire island has invested in you being the next Tito. And while we're on the subject of that, we really need to stop going into that area of, oh, he's the next Tito, or like he's gonna be the next Julio Cesar Chavez. Those guys are normally one of a kind guys. And their shadow pretty much will overlap anything they do. Guys have to build up their own path. Like, as begrudgingly as some people may point Cotto, that's what Cotto did. Even, like I said, even if some Puerto Ricans don't forgive him for the Margarito fight, he still did it his way. He still was made. He still was very successful. And guess what? He's on the island. He's promoting. He's doing things to help the island. So he blazed his own path. Puerto Ricans probably have to stop trying to find the next Tito and pretty much let these kids go. Like, cause there's good Puerto Rican fighters out there. There's the Arroyo brothers. There's Machado. And if you want to look at the women, there's the Serrano sisters. So they have to let them build their own path. Otherwise, that shadow's just going to pretty much undo any progress that those guys are making. That's probably one of the things that messed up Verdejo.
I'll go to you, Bo, and then Gail and Scorsese. Your thoughts on Verdejo's quote unquote upset defeat?
Man, I'm glad you came to me, because here's the thing, and Daniel, I hear what you're saying, but the thing you have to also remember and understand is that, and I agree with you, Miguel Cotto didn't get a lot of love. He got more love from Puerto Ricans in New York than he did in Puerto Rico, because he made the famous comment, "I'm not Tito Trinidad, I'm Miguel Cotto." And to a lot of people, they felt like, they felt some kind of way about that. But the problem is, by Tito helping promote this kid and getting behind Verdejo, then, that became a bigger issue. But Verdejo was having problems with his hands before the accident. But this is Verdejo's problem, was he lacks discipline and determination, meaning that Verdejo, once he started gaining traction and got big, Verdejo was halfway training when he was in Puerto Rico and more skirt chasing. He decreased his training regimen and increased his skirt chasing regimen by a ton. And when you're doing that, you're having interference with your training camp. You're not treating your body right, or you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing to follow the path that he was on, because he bought into that, him being a star and the things that came with him being a star in his home country. And he forgot what got him there, and he let that go. But when I look at this fight that I saw him fight last time, I'm not shocked, because I think somebody mentioned earlier, if you have been watching him, even before the accident, he started to look less and less impressive. So I do agree that somebody needs to get in his head, because the talent is there, but the problem with talent got to be willing to work hard. Hard work will beat talent 1,000 times if talent ain't working hard. And right now, what we're seeing is a kid who's not willing to work hard. After the 4th round, he was getting his ass whooped to me. He was getting his ass straight whooped by a guy that should not have been beating him. And then to show you the level of confidence that Top Rank had in him, he was on an undercard that wasn't being televised. That fight had to be streamed for a couple of people to watch it. So the doctor jumped up there and stopped the fight, and his corner is trying to fuss about it now. But if you watch the replay, when the doctor jumped up, one of the damn cornermen jumped up with the doctor, with the white towel in his hand. Like, they was like, man, we finna end this. And it was only 30 seconds left to go in the 10th round. So he should have been granted that. But he looked it bad. He does have to do some soul searching. but he was looking to land one big shot from the 4th round on. And when he landed and dude was still there, he went into a mental breakdown in his mind. And that's what I saw. Now he's not, I'm not gonna try to say he's broken and trash, but I am gonna say this. He has to be willing to work hard. Fuck your talent. You gotta work hard. Talent's only gonna get you so far. And that's what we're running into, a guy that was talented, but never willing to work hard, in my opinion.
Gail and then Scorsese.
You know, here again, we had a guy, a prospect, very, very exciting. We had the next big thing for quite a few years. And the comments were very well taken earlier from Daniel and others about, you know, comparing these young guys to the greats of their country, which is just setting them up for a really hard go. But I remember watching him, and I wouldn't swear to it, but I think it was following the fight with Ivan Nehera in 2015, which was at the theater at Madison Square Garden. And that was a fight with an undefeated opponent at the time, I believe. And everyone expected them to put on a great show and Verdejo to win. Well, Verdejo did win, but it was a unanimous decision, and it wasn't exactly a wide one. It was just not quite the fight, not the spectacle that we were all hoping for. And I still remember the post-fight interview because he had just this sort of rueful look on his face like, well, you know, I guess that's the way it goes. You know, he kind of just shrugged it off like, yeah, I guess that's, you know, the best I could do. And I thought, this guy's in trouble right that minute. It was the attitude. Bo, you're totally right. He's got all the skills, but somebody who is extremely ambitious wins like that and really barely wins and does not meet expectations. He's mad at himself. He's mad. I've seen Earl Spence, you know, give a great performance and say, well, I don't know, I didn't do that great. That's what it takes. Just now, if any of you are, you know, watching the current ESPN card, their young prospect, Ryan Garcia, just crushed his opponent. He isn't content to win. He wants to make a statement every single fight. Guys like Regis Prograis, a statement every single fight. That is what puts butts in the seats. That's what gives them the big paychecks. That's the kind of attitude they need to have. And I think this is becoming the theme of our show tonight is, do you have that winning attitude? Do you have that work ethic? You cannot be successful in boxing without it. And you cannot have a fan following without it. No question. And by the way, Ryan Garcia just laid out Vargas. This kid is the real deal. I'm going to stop it there.
Side note, Gail, word is he may you may see him on the undercard of Triple G Canelo next. I'm just saying, but move on.
And he has been on some of the big undercards already. He's appeared at the Forum several times, but not televised. I think his days of being on the non-televised undercards are over. He's a knockout artist and he's fan friendly. But gentlemen, if you got teenage daughters, oh baby, keep them away from
the thirst from the ladies in the crowd tonight.
Holy, no kidding. He is Rico Suave, man. No, the ladies love Ryan. They love Ryan, and he loves them back.
Far as Verdejo, few of my favorite fighters, you know, they got stopped. You've seen. And even those that didn't get stopped, they had rough outings that had comebacks. You know, Imam showed that he could come back and at least put on a good fight. You know, can Verdejo do the next level? It's going to be adjustments involved. I didn't get to see the fight, and I don't think Bob Arum is the one hiding it because Bob Arum ripped his ass. Bob Arum told him he's a fucking disgrace. He's not committed. He's a joke. You know, so my biggest thing is, look, bounce back, bro. Put that work in. Make them adjustments to make you a better fighter. Find what you really are and somebody who can show you, somebody who can show you things that you didn't know about yourself that can make you who you need to be in that ring. And all things are possible, man. A lot of people took the L's before. He is a talent, a beautiful left hook, beautiful punch selection altogether. But put it together, man. Like if you can't, somebody take that spot. So not to be too hard, but just the facts.
Indeed,
Yo,
indeed. Go ahead.
I don't know who the fuck Scorsese is, but we need low place back. I don't know who
No,
the fuck
I
this.
didn't see it. I didn't see it. So I mean, I heard he took. I get it. He's an asshole. He's playing around with something that's his career. But I see these people. They get beat up, and they bounce back. So is he gonna be that person? If he's not that person, it could get harsher next time. Or maybe what's really harsh? Being forgotten. That's the best you can do for him right there. That's the worst you can do for him. So I'm gonna see. I like to see us have stars in the division at 30 and 35 and 40. They need some names. Those shits ain't popping to me. So I'm rooting for the kid and if whoever beat him, what kind of potential does he have? We talked a lot about him, but the guy who knocked his ass out, where is he going? Who is he? I don't even know him.
I don't know much about him either, but we will see. And um, if this is not a wake up call for Verdejo, you can forget it. You just simply forget it. He's never going to wake up. One last fight. I'm going to both on you. On you. I'm going to Bo. Bo. I'm going to you specifically. Open your mic up, please. Um, you was unable to make it last week because you was under the weather. I wanted to talk about a guy you and I both have had the pleasure of interviewing. That is Linus Udofia. Last Saturday, St. Patrick's Day, uh, scored a a stoppage over a guy by the name of Goodrich, round three. Hadn't had much time to talk about Udofia here on Pound for Pound. Want to have a moment right now to talk about him. Like I said, you and I have both had the pleasure of interviewing him. I've seen him on tape. Um, I don't think he's a great power puncher, but I love his hand speed. He has he has more than adequate skills, and I love the footwork from him for such a young guy on the come up. Your thoughts on the young UK middleweight prospect Linus Udofia?
Well, the thing about Linus is this is a dude he's not just a worker in the gym, he's also a worker in the ring. So what you see him doing in the ring is because he's working double that hard in the gym. I see lots of tapes on him, I watch his videos and everything, but he's also a guy who wants to push and challenge himself. There was a fight just before this fight, he fought a cat named Ash. And people was telling him, no, that might be too much for you. And he said, okay, well, give me that fight. Because he wanted to see, he's one of those guys that want to see, do I belong here? Is this, you know what I'm saying? Like, do I belong here? You know, because if I don't belong here, I want to know right now. And he's not a hard puncher, but he places his punches very well. He knows how to place his punches. And the one thing I think he may have to be careful of, I think sometimes he has a tendency to admire his work sometimes after he does something. He stands there and admires his work a little bit. But outside of that, man, he has the right attitude. He has work ethic. But of course, not trying to knock for all you UK people that's watching, we won't know how good he really is until he kicks that level up and he fights maybe like a top or a highly touted prospect from the US, because there's just different levels. And again, I'm not trying to knock them. It's just different levels between the US and the US and the UK. And y'all can trash me for saying it. That's just how I feel. But I do like what I see from him. I talk to him all the time. He has the right attitude. And what, like I'm saying, I can't express enough is what you see in that ring, because that dude is working double, sometimes triple as hard in the gym.
Indeed, indeed, and he has an interesting background story as well. Um, I would suggest you go backlog on some of Bo's show from Truth and Facts and see some interviews from him and his backstory and how he's had some trials and tribulations in his career. And correct me if I'm wrong, Bo. He's not only a professional boxer, he still has I believe a full-time job as well. So in terms of
Yeah,
inside and outside the ring, he's a guy who you want to root for.
yeah, his days are sleep 5 hours, train, work, train, go back to sleep. Those are his days.
Absolutely and absolutely. Let's move on to some news here. One main news development. Uh, maybe another story we may touch on. Last week we talked Jorge Linares and Vasyl Lomachenko. I shared a story from Bo outfit at over Three Kings. They had reported the fight had happened, was going to happen. De La Hoya came out with a tweet and said uh, until Lomachenko's folks meet with us, the fight is not going to happen. Well, it broke, I think, yesterday that the fight indeed is going to happen May 12th. I want to say in New York City. I could be wrong, but I just want your reaction here from everybody here. Now that the fight is signed, sealed, and official, your thoughts.
I can get in for because I'm gonna have to get up out of here in a minute. Gotta make a run, but Bo won't Scorsese back. Well, he can get it, but it's gonna be on one of the Cuban brothers, the trainer that got dropped by Linares. I think. Look, I know he going into easily the biggest fight of his career, rankings wise.
For those who don't know, give the details, Scorsese. For those who don't
Um,
know.
Silas has been canned. He wanted to work with David Hay. And what's the big Joe Joyce? He signed a promotional deal with them, so his time spot conflicts with Linares. Didn't want to go to the UK to train. He wanted to train in Tokyo, then the States, or what have you. But I think, judging by the way Francis Bartholomew fought, judging by the way Joe Joyce moves in the ring with that, I don't know what the hell to call it, but it's the most comedic thing I've seen in boxing all my years, except for Amir Khan falling. Um, Bartholomew had no game plan. Just went in there, excessive movement in order to get absolutely nowhere. He looked like he literally threw a fight, and he has been looking bad damn near since Salas got under him. Salas has turned him to a nothing but a pocket fighter. They don't do nothing but throw hard punches on the pads and videos. I don't have no agreement with what Salas has done for fight. I am proud of Jorge Linares. Somebody need to do it first. I don't care what circumstances brought it back. And God knows Jorge Linares needs some damn work. He ain't there. Somebody told me, well, he shouldn't have left Silas because he got him where he was. I said the easy matchmaking got Jorge Linares where he was, and a free ring title that they gave him to fight the number 4 ranked man got him where he was. But he hasn't even looked good in those performances. I don't know what the hell Silas is actually doing. But that's a good move. Whoever he gets, let's see if he can tune him up for this Lomachenko fight and actually make a fight out of it instead of being cut up or whatever it is he normally does. That's the only real thing to me about this. It got done, and I'll just be waiting for the rest.
I'm going to extend the conversation to everybody else here in the panel. Thoughts on the fact that Three King boxing, first off, they was right from jump. Linares, Lomachenko, it's going to happen.
You know what? Normally, when a fighter drops a trainer just before a big fight, I kind of question it, but I can in this instance because if you look at some of the not just Salas, even Joel Casamayor, because they're down there, he's down there with Salas in training. If you look at how some of these guys coming out their gym have been looking, it has not been good. Now, can it be a case of where they're not listening to the trainer? It could be, but as the trainer, it's your job to make sure that they are listening to you. So yeah, I can't argue with Low Place putting some of the blame on him on the trainer. And Jorge Linares in his biggest fight don't want to go to Japan because this is my big fight. You should be here to train me in my big fight. I actually would agree with Jorge Linares from that standpoint. Like, man, this is a big fight for me. So I should be, you know what I'm saying, the number one important dude here because that's what Freddie Roach would do for Manny Pacquiao. If you watch Jorge Linares' footwork, his footwork is freaking horrible. He has fast hands, but his footwork is it's horrible. And the way Salas is training him wouldn't be effective for fighting a guy whose footwork is incredible. And maybe it's something Jorge Linares sees. So, like I say, normally when guys do that, I kind of question it. But if you look at, and this is coming from somebody who, if I need to tell y'all about me, then y'all ain't been paying attention. But this is coming from somebody who I've been watching Jorge Linares. I've been watching Salas and how he trained them. You know, now they're probably doing more. But I'll be honest with you, when I watch them training videos, the thing that bothers me is look like they're having too much goddamn fun. And no, this is training. This is training. I want to see. I want to see you damn near pass out when you're done doing something. Like if you watch Regis Prograis training videos, he's damn near ready to faint. These guys are like they're having too much fun, you know. So, this you know, only time will tell whether this is a good move. But again, if you watch how Silas been training, Jorge Linares' footwork is not that good, and they just got him throwing hard punches. They don't make a lot. They're working on footwork, and you going up against a guy whose footwork is incredible, then this possibly could be the move that he made that he felt was better for him.
Gail, Jacob, Daniel, your thoughts on the fact that the fight is signed and official, and also the discussion. What Bo and Scorsese has been talking about in terms of the breaking news regarding Ismael Salas, the trainer of Jorge Linares. He's breaking up with Linares and will not train him for this fight.
Well, it's it's a situation where you don't have a whole lot of time to get used to somebody else.
I mean, 6 weeks.
That's a rough call. But I'd be more concerned with somebody of less experience. Linares is a veteran. He's seen it all, done a lot of it. It's not going to rattle him too much like it would a younger guy, you know, still on the rise. So I temper my concern with the fact he is a veteran, and if anyone can handle it, he certainly can. There's a lot of capable guys of training him. The one thing I will say, though, when you are that much of a veteran, you do not have to be pounding it in the gym, nor should you be pounding it when you've got that much mileage on you, you know, as an older fighter, you know, as a younger guy. I mean, you should not be comparing the training methods of somebody like Prograis and Linares. You know, a lot of the training Linares should be doing is to preserve himself at this point. There isn't a lot you can teach somebody in his position. You need to be sure that he is in good condition, that he's sharp, that he does not take too much time off. That will hurt him. But he really can't be pounding it the way a 20-year-old can. Not at all. And it's an interesting approach when you think about it. Trying to train somebody to keep up with the speed and footwork of someone like Lomachenko, they're doomed to fail. It's not going to happen. So you better train them to do something else. And if he's being trained to stand there in the pocket and wait for his opportunity, that's an interesting approach. You know, time will prove whether it's the right choice or not. But I can endorse it as a viable choice, at least. Because if you're going to try to train somebody to, you know, be a dance partner with Lomachenko, that's not going to happen. The one good thing we do know, I feel like what we can all say with confidence, Linares will at least not quit in the corner. That will not happen. He will go down swinging if he's going to go down. So that's one thing decidedly in his favor. And he's not afraid of losing. He's lost plenty. You survive. So it's a good fight. The closer it gets, the more excited I'm going to be about it. And I do think it's very possible he'll be in New York. Egis Klimas has an exceptionally good relationship with Madison Square Garden. His guys like to fight there. There's a huge crowd of Eastern Europeans, Russians, Ukrainians who are guaranteed to be in the seats. You know, so you start with a really nice advantage there. And Linares, you know, I think he's got the reputation where he'll draw just about anywhere. So, and we know he'll fight anywhere. He's a road warrior. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
Hey, just to correct something, Gail, I was comparing how they train in general, not just Jorge Linares. I was saying that any of those guys.
Oh, gotcha. That's his style overall. Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, and that's definitely not a good fit for Linares. It's just not at his age anyway. It's not. Those of us at the older end of the spectrum know that you cannot train like that.
Just one thing I'm gonna say before I get out of there. Bo's right, like every fighter, he literally puts them in one corner and has them walk to a corner, straight into another corner, walking in straight lines, just throwing punches, and then he makes them go back just the same step backwards, throwing coming. It's just like you do not fight like that. Nobody has ever fought like none of your fighters fight that. I don't. It's something about me when I was watching him and Rancis train. I would say it on the videos, like, bruh, why the hell you got this man fighting like this? You are ruining the fighter. And Rancis would like the damn comments. I'm just like, boxing pisses me off sometimes, and that's one other thing. I'm gonna get out of here, y'all. Y'all continue having a good show. See y'all next week or the week after when we do this.
You have a good one, bro. You have a good one. Get Jacob and Daniel into this discussion. Jacob, Daniel, are you there?
Okay, I think Jacob wasn't there. Okay, so I'll go. I'm looking first at how this actually got made, because we know the date. We know the date was the big issue. So apparently, this fight's going to be on ESPN. But what ESPN is doing, like they did on this card tonight, and they're going to do throughout, is they're going to I think they had the main event at 8:00 rather than like 10, 11, so it won't interfere with the replay of Canelo Triple G2. And apparently they're going to, like I said, like they did today on the Golden Boy card, they're going to hype the living hell out of the replay for Canelo Triple G2. So first, I like that they got over that pass now. Luck, like I said, I'm with Gail in the sense of the fact that I would be worried if Linares, like I said, threw, like, let's say, let go of his trainer 6 weeks into what could be a fight that could literally shape his legacies in a way, particularly if he wins. But like Gail mentioned, he's a professional. He's going to see it all. He's seen enough of the world to know what to do and what not to do when it comes to training and fighting. And ultimately, probably this was a situation similar to what Ray Vargas is going through or has gone through with Nacho Bernstein. Like Ray Vargas, remember, he wanted Nacho to be his trainer, his exclusive trainer. And Nacho, to his credit, he can't do that. Like he has too many good fighters that he has to focus on. And Linares saw this. Okay, wait, you're training David Haye for what's technically a carnival fight. You're going there to the UK. I'm fighting the guy some people are arguing is already pound for pound number one. So I don't know who he's going to get over 6 weeks, but we know he's going to probably train well. And it's going to be an interesting fight because, yeah, Lomachenko will mop the floor with him right now when it comes to footwork. But the thing Lomachenko hasn't seen is somebody with the hand speed of Linares and the skill set of Linares. So it's a very, very interesting fight. I'm happy it got made. Like I said, it's a fight that could, in Lomachenko's case, cement his status as a top-level fighter to the doubters' eyes, because he'll wind up beating the guy that wasn't tailor-made for him. And if Linares wins, that shapes his legacy. Like you beat a guy that was considered is considered the greatest amateur of his generation. Some can argue that he can be the best amateur fighter ever. I'm not one of those, but it'll be a guy that a lot of people were seeing as, like I said, if not on his way, already pound for pound number one. So it's an interesting fight. to be made. Now, we just have to see who he picks, because that's not a lot of time, especially if he picks a trainer that fights in a style that's completely different to his. That's not a lot of, like 6-7 weeks, that's not a lot of time to completely rework your regimen. So he has to be careful what he does, but I'm glad the fight's done.
Okay, go to you, Jacob. Lastly, Linares Lomachenko is happening. Any cause? How much of concern do you have over the situation with Linares and who's going to train him?
Not too much. To Gail's earlier point, I mean, he's. It's not like he's a rookie, and for me, a lot of the boxers, you know, I know training does have, you know, having a good trainer. I'm not saying it doesn't play a part, but a lot of this is like wet cement that's been hardened already. I mean, they have the skill set this late in the game. They kind of have a game, and maybe they could tweak little things, but you're not gonna even if he had a full training, a bunch of time with this trainer, I don't think you're gonna overhaul him completely. He's Linares, and that's just, you know, he fights the way he fights, and he's what the trainer should be doing is looking for little things, little adjustments, and have a game plan based on what Lomachenko brings to the table, and how his Linares's attributes are the things that he, you know, like hand speed was brought up, like those things. How can we use those to our advantage versus, you know, what Lomachenko brings to the table? So I'm not too concerned with that. I'm glad the fight was made. I mean, I was tired of Mikey talking about, you know, he wants to fight this, he wants to fight that, he wants to be a welter, he wants to be, you know, like I just want to see the fights. I mean, we've gone so many times with situations where we don't get to see, you know, fights and the activity of these fighters, you know, fighting, you know, twice a year sometimes, which I think is crazy. So, I mean, if we can make some good, interesting matchups, I'm all for it.
Last little bit of tidbit here before we start looking forward to the fights. Oh, look, we know the situation with Canelo and the failed test or the positive test for clenbuterol. There was an interview with Triple G, and this is out of form for him. He kind of went off, called Canelo a cheater. First time, to my knowledge, in his professional career where he's shown, where he's been this emotional. Dare I say, he was highly pissed off. Your reaction to the fact that Triple G kind of went at Canelo in the way he did following a positive test. Do you think it's going to serve him well? Do you think that the fact that he focused so much to the positive test and was as expressive as he was, is it something that concerns you? Just your overall reaction, and from everyone in terms of the interviews with Triple G and his commentary towards Canelo.
I'll jump in here. You know, Golovkin knows exactly what he needs to do when he's doing interviews, when he's addressing the fans. He has learned well and worked very long and hard over the years to attract his fan base. You know, in his unguarded, in his private moments, he's not always the smiling Mr. Rogers looking guy. I've seen him get irritated. Right before he fought Canelo, and I'm thinking it was a news conference, trying to think who the opponent was. He was getting the usual barrage of questions about, yeah, I haven't fought any decent competition. And he lost his temper and wasn't real happy about, you know, getting blamed for the fact that guys weren't going to fight him. And he kind of let a lot of the media have it in a way that you didn't see too much. But he isn't a guy who loses his temper a lot, except in the ring. He is one of those human beings who takes the emotions we all have and is able to channel them exactly where he wants them to go. Not a lot of us can do that. So in this case, he's pissed. He's royally pissed off. It's just something we don't see a lot. But in this case and in this situation, he's obviously decided it serves him well. And let's face it, everybody who's a boxing fan long ago chose whether they were Team Canelo or Team Golovkin. I don't think you have a lot of people down the middle undecided. I think you got your favorite. You've got the guy you like to see. You've got the guy you think is the stronger of the two, the guy you just plain like better. So I don't think anything he says is going to affect the fans. They're in one camp or the other already. You can
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, you could think that maybe he's setting up, the potential for making the case should the fight fall apart, should he lose. There's a lot of theories that you could put on the table that you couldn't discard any of them right now until we see what the outcome's going to be. How really pissed is he? I mean, pissed enough, not pissed enough to back out of the fight. Although I do find it very interesting that we're now hearing about Plan B. Plan B being, if for some reason the fight does fall apart, trying to make his next fight with Billy Joe Saunders. And honestly, that's a fight I'd rather see, because that's a unification. That's the fight he's wanted for a long, long time. And having just seen Saunders in a terrific performance, I don't think that any of us expected against David Lemieux, that's the fight that's really interesting. If Golovkin wants to unify and this fight falls apart, he fights Saunders and gets the belt, he never has to look at Canelo's face again. Forget it. Unless they're both super middleweights somewhere down the road.
I'll go to you, Bo, and then you can follow up, Daniel and Jacob. Were you surprised that Canelo was so visibly upset publicly, or were you like, well, considering what happened and considering Canelo's history in the past with him getting certain privileges that other fighters do not, it's like you kind of understood?
I'm gonna be petty right quick for a short moment, and I'm gonna send something out to Mikey Garcia. Linares is fighting Loma first. But Gail mentioned something earlier about when you getting older and you start looking at things differently. And to that point, a lot of times we forget that our fighters are human. And Golovkin is being, in my opinion, he's being a victim of his own character, which is we don't see him get visibly upset like Gail pointed to. He projects that anger in the ring because remember, he is 34 years old. And so when he does that, people are jumping on him and they're trying to clown him because he's doing something that is human to do when you feel that someone is either trying to cheat or you feel that, in my opinion, his expression, I took it like he was saying, if you look at the PR campaign that went around Canelo Alvarez, not just from Golden Boy, but from the WBC and the WBA, the amount of evidence that they put out to prove Dusty was tainted meat, then the less than 2 days after that, the article to show how he passed so many tests after that. So to a certain degree, Golovkin probably feels like, okay, this is me against the world. I do agree with Gail as far as fighting Billy Joe Saunders. The problem is, I think at this point in Golovkin's career, he's looking to cash out, and the Canelo fight is a cash out fight. He won't get the same amount of money fighting the Saunders. So that's why he wants this fight. But listen, Golovkin is human. I can't tell another man what to be upset about or how to feel about certain things. Okay, so he's human. He's upset. He feels some kind of way. And Gail is right. If you was already Team Golovkin, you was Team Golovkin. If you're Team Canelo, you Team Canelo. It don't make much of a difference. So I think we should stop. People should stop trying to get on this this man for being upset and showing emotion when, hey, you never know what might have happened earlier that day. And that was just the last thing to trigger him when he was talking to the reporter. And he just, let it all out. But I'm not surprised he did it. I'm actually kind of glad he did it because because if he'd have went along with the whole, well, it's a big fight and I don't want to ruin the fans, and that would have been disingenuous to me. He was genuine. I saw a genuine Gennady Golovkin, in that was genuine. That was genuine anger. That was genuine disappointment. That was genuine him expressing how he feels. I'd rather see that from fighters than the fake person that's just trying to continue to sell me a fight. Because if you're gonna watch it and buy it, you're gonna watch it and buy it regardless. So I'm glad he did it. I'm not shocked by it. And again, they're human. Let's not forget that. They're most definitely human.
Okay, reaction in the chat and a question and a comment and a question for you both specifically. Quantum in the chat says that Golovkin should have faced Billy Joe Saunders when he had the opportunity, but money was far more important than legacy. Defining fights, I hope he KOs Alvarez before being disposed off by Saunders. And then he asks Bo, "Are you?" I'm guessing backtracking into a house. I hear a fence and door being sledged and hammered. Your reaction, Bo?
No, I'm actually at the gym, putting in that hard work that us old people put in to shut them young people down. I know what Gail talking about, but I'm 50 is the new 20. So
I don't know about that. I don't think I'd trade 50 for 20. I might trade it for 30. I don't think I want to be 20 again.
You know what, Gail? You're right. I was stupid at 20. I was just a little dumb at 30. So yeah, I'll give you.
There you go. There you go. I'm thinking, I don't know. I might even ping about 33 and a half. I'd be good with that.
But he should have fought Billy Joe, and people are saying, he chose legacy. He chose money over legacy. That's a knock on him. Only him and his team know what they were doing with that. But now let's remember now at that time, Billy Joe was a little hesitant to fight him previously before then. And it was only after the Jacobs fight, Billy Joe showed that he really wanting to step up to the plate. And then after the situation with Eubanks, he just decided probably to go with the sure thing. And it's funny because it's like here lately I've been finding myself defending people who it's not that I don't like Golovkin, but I'm saying it's like sometimes we have to be a little bit realistic about certain things when it comes to the business of this sport. And I think, Golovkin's, like I say, he's 34. And this is around the age when a lot of fighters start looking for that cash out fight. And Carmelo is just that. And I can't be mad at him for that. I really can't.
Your thoughts on all this, Jacob, and then you can follow up, Daniel.
I guess the question is, do I think Golovkin's upset? From what I've seen, he talks about, he wants to have a clean sport. And, I think obviously there's also people, that he gets his information from and he has good English, but it's not great. So I think some stuff is lost in translation, unfortunately. And, when he's trying to make his comments, maybe they don't come out the way that he maybe initially wants them to be. But, he's getting towards the end of his career, and he got a lot of money from that fight, and he's going to get a lot of money from this fight. And he's smart to continue with this. And, if something does come up or another test or, if he loses or what, all these different scenarios, it's a no lose situation for him, in my opinion. So, at the end of the day, it's, we're probably still going to end up seeing the fight because there's a lot of money on the table. Unless they, Canelo tests positive again or the B sample. I don't know. Unless something like really comes down, even closer to the fight, then, I don't know. I guess it could derail the fight. I don't think the Saunders I get that, Saunders has the belt. He pulled out because of the injury. Great. I kind of pissed at Golovkin for, he said that he wanted all the belts, but at the end he did take the money route. And I'm not begrudging him that, but don't say that you're about unifying the belts, and then the Golden Boy dangles this fight in front of you, and you could. I mean, he could have fought Saunders. That's the reality of it. It could have happened, but it didn't, and I don't know that it'll ever get unified because I just, it doesn't seem to be in the cards. I mean, we're that close, but I mean, he's gonna have to probably defend his mandatories for like IBF and things like that. So that could muddy the waters too. But at the end of the day, hopefully the fight gets made. I hope he wins. And I hope there's a clear winner. I hope there's no controversy, and we'll see what happens.
Lastly, Daniel.
I would pretty much try to call this a heel promo in a way. Like, you saw side of Golovkin that he rarely lets out in public. But it's a side that, like you mentioned, it's a side of him that is not going to change a lot of people's minds if they already make up for this fight. It's true, you're already on Team Triple J or Team Canelo somewhere or another. There are very, very few people that are either on the fence or actually going to be objective about this. And you have to, I understand his anger. I understand his anger at the way that the sanctioning bodies, Golden Boy, were able to present their case in the fast manner. But at the same time, you could level that to Golden Boy unfortunately learning from a couple of their other fighters being caught with the same situation. Experience speeds things when it comes to crisis sometimes. But I understand his anger. Yes, there was a potential for a Saunders fight, but I'm of the opinion that I really, really doubt that Saunders legitimately actually wants to fight. So there's always that aspect. Jacob mentioned the mandatories. He does have the IBF mandatory, Derevchenko. He technically has the WBC mandatory with Jamal Charlo. So he has two mandatories at the moment that he has to deal with. Should this fight fall apart, I really highly doubt this fight fall apart. There's way too much money. There's been very few instances where a fight that could possibly make so much money got derailed. But I get his frustration. I get the feeling that he feels like everybody's trying to cover for Canelo. So why are they doing it? This has to be a clean sport throughout. I get it. I get the frustration. And it's good to let it out sometimes. You can't always have the public face smiling all the time. You have to let that humanity out. But I don't think it's going to change any factors on the fight. Like I said, there's too much money to be made. The sanctioning monies want their fees. The T-Mobile Arena wants their attendance record. The concession stands wanted to. The bookies want their money. So this fight's going to go on. And honestly, like I said, this could be, unless Golovkin wins big, this could be Golovkin's really last fight at 160. If he draws again or if he loses in this fight, granted, the win will be seen as tainted one way or another by people. But I could see him then try to go to 168, try to go to a division rather than try to challenge again, because he is getting that point. And right now, super middleweight's not looking too strong at the moment when it comes to as a division. So I get it. I get the anger. I get the frustration. But it really changes nothing in a way.
Yeah. I'm more in line. I'm in line with you, Daniel, and what you're saying. Uh, Golovkin, he's upset, and he has a right to be upset. You can't blame him, but at the end of the day, it's not going to do anything as far as the fight is concerned because it's going to happen regardless. Let's move on. Starting to end the show by previewing some fights. I want to more than likely I will not be able to do a show next week. So what I want to do is going to talk about a fight this weekend, and then we're going to do a preview tonight of Anthony Joshua Joseph Parker, the heavyweight unification bout. I want to focus on the weekend fight first. HBO decided to pick up the Dillian Whyte Lucas Brown fight. I'm going to go to you guys. I mean, look, the fact that HBO is picking up the fight, I understand why. I want to make it some adventures with Matchroom, but I'm not moved by it that much. And quite frankly, I'm not moved much by this fight. I think that White is going to win. I don't have much of anything to add after that. So I'm going to rely on you guys to give a preview of this fight because the fight is happening, but otherwise, it's just, pretty meh to me. Comment, please. Unmute your mics, folks.
Maybe none of us have anything to say. It's just
That's
that.
it. That pretty much says it all. The fact that everybody was so silent on it.
Can we express our entire thoughts with 3 letters? Meh? Maybe. Maybe. I mean, it's sort of the fact is, no major boxing event is going to compete with the NCAA basketball tournament. So, and boxing knows about the ebbs and flows it has against other sports. So, especially in the United States, nobody's going to be dumb enough to compete on a weekend where everybody's glued to their TVs or at the arenas watching basketball, just like they wouldn't put up a fight against the Super Bowl. They're not going to put up major fights against the week of the World Series. I mean, you can, go down the line. That does not mean everyone around the world isn't still watching boxing. And so our fights are coming to us from the UK where, right about now, somebody's got a professional record. It seems like they could fill a venue. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, they're willing to go see boxing action no matter where or when. If they recognize the name, they'll be there. I'm just sort of, scratching my head here, trying to figure out why HBO picked up the Dillian Whyte fight. They don't have money for a lot of things, and they had money for that. I really am scratching my head over it.
Yeah.
Oh, we know why.
Yeah, about to say, well, Gil, thank God you have hair. If I scratch my head, I'll be bleeding. When I heard this was announced, I wasn't shocked because HBO is trying to make a movie right about now. They'll probably try anything. I don't think it was a lot of money for them to pick up this fight. And
well, I hope it was zero or a favor for a friend or something, because you're certainly
that's
not.
What it seems like, you know what I'm saying? Back room, office power shuffle, on call. You scratch my back, and I'll catch you later on.
I think you're right. I think it's one of these things of, well, if you pick this up, we'll make good for you, in the next. We'll buy the next round. I mean,
also, it could also be a way for them. Could be a way for them to get their foot in the door. We're trying to get Anthony Joshua. They'd be trying to do that. This could be.
That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, it has to. I mean, honestly, it has to be. It absolutely has to be. Or, wanting to get a foothold with Whyte, should he fight Wilder?
Yes, definitely. So I wasn't surprised.
I think that's because clearly this decision was not made in a vacuum. There's some kind of long game going on here. There has to be.
I agree. I wasn't surprised, but as far as the fight overall, okay.
Yeah, that pretty much describes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's there.
Well,
It's there.
well, I'll, I'll say this. Uh, I was on a hangout last weekend with AJ Boxing Live, who was at the sparring session for Lucas Brown. He mentioned things about Lucas Brown that I'm not really sure it was live when he said it, so I'm gonna keep it low, but it wasn't good. As far as HBO picking up the fight, this is the Joshua play. This is something where probably Eddie Hearn saying, "Okay, you pick up this one, and I won't ask as much for Joshua." At the same time, yeah, it's gonna be pretty mad because right now it's gonna be the Elite Eight pretty soon, so we're gonna get the end of the tournament pretty soon. Spring training's happening in baseball, so baseball's starting pretty soon. So yeah, not a lot of minds are really paying attention to it. But this is a fight we have to realize that this is for technically to be the next guy after Dominic Brazil, who's still somehow the mandatory challenger for Wilder. This is supposed to be the fight to be next in line. If Dillian Whyte wins, okay. Now Eddie Hearn has a chip he has to play with when it comes to negotiations with the Joshua fight, where he can go if Wilder fights Brazil next, just managing to stay busy. He can legitimately say, okay, you have to fight Dillian Whyte now. You have no choice. And or if Lucas Brown wins, that'll be hilarious if Lucas Brown wins, honestly. Now, I guess I get Lucas Brown's story. It is a very, very interesting story, how he came into boxing, but yeah, that'll be just food for Wilder, unfortunately.
um.
It,
Oh, I thought you was finished. Go ahead.
now, ultimately, it is a meh fight. Like, there's really not a lot happening overall because, like you mentioned, if it's not spring training, if it's not the tournament, it's gonna be like I said, the home stretch of the NBA season, or even though it's like the week afterwards, you have WrestleMania happening. Like everybody's attention is going into some type of direction. How ESPN actually actually put on their YouTube channel a WWE segment of all things. So now boxing has to compete with that too. So yeah, it's a meh fight, but it does have some level of significance. It doesn't mean that people on this side of the pond are really gonna care about it though.
Yeah. Any word on this fight, Jacob, or should we move on and talk Joshua Parker?
Let's move on.
Well, let's move and talk Joshua Parker. Anthony Joshua, Joseph Parker, heavyweight unification bouts. Joshua, WBA, IBF, IBO, heavyweight champion. Joseph Parker, WBO heavyweight champion. Um, Going to you first on this one, Bo. Your keys for the fight. Um, your thoughts on Anthony Joshua's weight? He had a public workout yesterday, I believe, in London. Subsequent interviews, he's talking about weighing as low as 238, 239 for the fight. There's a lot of criticism of him, particularly for his last fight against Takam, which he weighed a career high of 254. That's following weighing 250 for the Klitschko fight. So yeah, your keys to the fight. Who do you have winning, and your thoughts on seemingly Anthony Joshua is deciding to come in lighter for this fight.
I'm not surprised. I said before, and uh, I'm going to keep this strictly about Joseph Parker and Anthony Joshua. I think too many people are focusing on Joshua versus Wilder. That fight's going to happen when it happens. But I'm not surprised he did because I said before he may want to come in lighter because Joseph Parker is more of a boxer than a puncher, so he may have to try to be more mobile, conserve energy, address some certain stamina issues, because Joseph Parker can move all night. Joseph Parker's a guy that he can box you for 12 straight rounds. So he probably wants to just come in a little lighter. When he came in, I said before, when he fought Dominic Brazzelli, when he fought the Dillian Whyte, he was 230, 235. I felt his punches were straighter. His mobility was a little better. So good strategy, in my opinion, because you don't want to be, because I don't think Joseph Parker will win a 12-round decision against Joshua, unless it's just totally clear that he wiped the floor with him. But if you want to at least be able to, be a little bit more mobile, be able to trap Joseph Parker a little bit better, you might want to come in a little bit lighter to give yourself a better chance from a stamina point. So I think it's a smart move. You don't have to be 250-some pounds to fight a Joseph Parker. And Parker has experience with fighting bigger guys. I mean, he fought that dude, Davinchenko. He fought that guy, he fought Ruiz, who were bigger than him. So he has experience fighting bigger guys, and he just outworks them because of his pure boxing ability. So I actually like this fight. I know why Joseph Parker chose Anthony Joshua, because again, if you think you're going to lose the title, listen, boxing is a business. It's prize fighting. He's a champion. Now he wants to get, that big paycheck. So at least he fought a champion. He didn't fight the guy I want him to fight, but at least he's fighting a champion. So, and it's a good fight. It's getting us closer to a undisputed champion. Since I think the last one to do that was Lennox Lewis. Showtime made the mistake of leaving him off the list, and
did Lennox Lewis blister Steve Farhood and Showtime for that on Twitter.
He had every right to do so. I agree with him. He had every right to do so.
Yeah, he did.
I agree. He had every right to do so. But yeah, I mean, I like it. Smart by Joshua. Listen, people want to question him going up in weight and the whole steroid, this, that. You know what? Until somebody pops, it's just speculation. So I'm not going to get into that because I think it takes away from the fight itself. But we got a big heavyweight fight coming up. And there's 2 heavyweight fights in 1 month that we've gotten. That's what boxing is about. And I'm glad we have that coming.
I'll go to you, Jacob. Since you wanted to skip that Dillian Whyte, Lucas Brown fight for understandable reasons, I'll give you the opportunity now to talk Joshua and Parker, your keys to the fight, your reaction to the fact that Joshua is going to come in lighter. Who do you have winning?
I got Joshua. Parker, I just haven't seen enough of what was kind of being talked about as far as potential. I think arguably the fight against Ruiz, I could see how someone could score that a draw or even a loss. He's getting tagged a lot. He does do good body work and he does have some skill. I just think that Joshua is going to do the right kind of damage, is going to be ready to face a opponent like Parker. I think it should be a decent fight, but I just think Joshua's a level above him, and I'd be lying to say I don't want to see that Joshua Wilder fight. But again, Parker's what's in front of him right now, so he needs to focus on that because you overlook your opponent. That's always the biggest mistake. And it's a unification fight in the sense of, another belt can get added or, someone's going to walk away with 3 belts. So it's a big, important fight. Heavyweight division's, lively now and are more lively than it's been in a long time. And, I just hope they give the fans a good showing and, again, no controversy. And I hope we see a good fight.
Your thoughts, Gail?
Not a lot to add here. I think everybody said most of it. Parker might not be a Felix Verdejo, but he could easily get in that direction if he doesn't get a fire under him. Joshua should not only be able to win, he really should get a statement win. That would get the fans fired up. So Amir win would disappoint me a little bit. Andy Ruiz, in my mind, did beat Joseph Parker. And Andy Ruiz fought on the Valdez-Quigg undercard and scored a first-round knockout and looked spectacular. So adding all those puzzle pieces up together, what that tells me is Joshua should be able to take care of business, and he should not overlook him. That is absolutely right, Jacob. Guys, the worst cliche in boxing, isn't it? You know, somebody's got a tune-up fight and loses, and that would be an absolute disaster. But nobody will put down their good hard-earned money betting against a Joshua win. Let's just hope it's flashy. I want to see flashy.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
This is the fight I wanted to see before these guys had belts. Because it's an interesting Commonwealth fight. It's two young champions now. And like I said, on paper, this should just be a cakewalk for Joshua. But Joseph Parker's main forte is body punching. And until proven otherwise, what's going to stick to my head when it comes to me, Joshua and body punching, is the second round of the Dillian Whyte fight, where he got really hurt, and you saw it in the corner. He was breathing incredibly heavily. Now, Parker does have short arms for a heavyweight. But it would be interesting, though, if he's able to get inside enough and then land those body shots that he can, and it wobbles Joshua. Because he hasn't really, unfortunately, Joshua, as good as he's been and as good as he's showed even in the Klitschko fight, he hasn't reassured me that he could really go against somebody that really invests in the body. So it's an interesting fight, but all that aside, everything Jacob said was true when it came to it. You can make the honest case that Andy Ruiz should actually be the one right now in the ring with Joshua, rather than Parker. You can make the case that, like I said, the fight with Hughie Fury might have been a lot closer than what those scorecards were. But it's an interesting fight. It's going to be a great unification. And I know you don't want to speak about it, Bo, but unfortunately we had to speak on it because Mr. Wilder is going to be in that arena. And should Joshua win, we know Mr. Wilder is going to get in that ring and challenge Joshua. And we
try to
know
baptize him.
Yep, and he does have the gift of gab. That's one of the main things that Wilder, like if you want to say something that Wilder has over Joshua, he has that. He has the gift of gab compared to Joshua, where Joshua, unfortunately, these days starting to sound more like a politician. So it's going to be a fun fight. Like I said, it's a fight Joshua should win. It would not, like I said, but if he gets troubled by those Joseph Parker body shots, oh boy, that's gonna make the fight really interesting. But Joshua should win.
If Parker can take the punch of Joshua and get inside, to Daniel's point, the fight will be interesting. The problem is for me, in fights I've seen of Joseph Parker, particularly the Ruiz fight, if Ruiz can get to Joseph Parker with shots, particularly in the midst of while the guys are exchanging, I think Anthony Joshua can as well. And Joshua is a much bigger, physically stronger fighter and harder hitter than Andy Ruiz. I like the fact that Joshua was coming in lighter. I thought he was always his most mobile, and hands and feet were faster at the lighter weight. And he should not have those moments where he'll put out effort and then it takes him a while for him to recover. If he comes in at the lighter weight and he's in the kind of shape that he really looks in camp from the videos I've seen of him, we will not see quite the stamina problems. Um, I'm going with Joshua in this fight. Uh, I'll say decision. A lot of people will say stoppage, but I'll say decision. I'll give Parker credit. But I just think over time he will land enough shots on Joseph Parker, and he will be responsible defensively, where um, he will not allow um, Parker to get to his body. I think the jab will be the key. Um, I think his link will be the key to winning this fight. I think we're going to end the show on that note. Going to go uh, around the panel here. I began the show starting with ladies first. I end the show starting with ladies first. So Gail from Community Digital News. For folks who want to talk to Sweet Science or Dancing with the Stars, environmental issues, small business advice, let the folks know where they can find you.
You can find me at Communities Digital News, which is COM, C-O-M-M, Digi, D-I-G-I News, comdiginews.com. And episode 202 proved that the five of us can find 2 hours of boxing talk out of anything.
Indeed, because the March Madness in full effect, Sweet 16 is in full effect, and even though it's a light weekend, nothing really happening. We still
we have got plenty to say any night of the week.
Absolutely. Both from Truth and Facts About Boxing from Three Kings Boxing. I'm glad you're feeling better. You were a bit under the weather last week with that nasty flu. For those who want to talk the Sweet Science, for those who want to follow the adventures of you and your daughter, for those who are into the app game, let the people know where they can hit you up.
You can hit me up. You can hit me up as you'll be watching Gail bail me out, because I will be making a 2 o'clock in the morning call if my son mouthed off one more time to me.
I'm handy.
But of course, you can find me Truth and Facts About Boxing on YouTube. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at capital T for Truth _ capital F for Fact Box 1. And man, I'm always glad to be here. Everybody, what I like about this panel is everybody have opinions. They're strong opinions, but they're respectful opinions also as well. That's also good. And man, like you said, we can find anything to talk about. Everybody on here has something to say. And as far as small businesses goes, I will be calling Gail because I have a small business, and I want everybody to understand this is how it goes when you're a father. You're a father. You have a girl. She's your princess. When you have a boy, I will beat his ass.
And both show a dedication because True could bet because he's doing this show while he's at the gym, putting in work. So that lets you know something right there. Daniel from the Inscriber, for those who want to talk, the Sweet Science, for those who want to talk the NBA, specifically the Miami Heat, let the people know where they can find you.
Folks, you can find me on Twitter at Raucus99. Next, you can find my show both in SoundCloud and on Boxing for BoxingNews.com. Like I said, I do a podcast with the good folks at ForBoxingNews.com. Joe and Francis. Shout out to them. Like I said, we're going to have a light show this week coming up because there's not a lot going on, but definitely going to talk about this, and we may talk about some news coming up because apparently, according to Lance Pugmire right now, the Nevada State Athletic Commission is summoning Tom Loeffler and Gennady Golovkin to discuss the Canelo issue.
Oh wow! So yeah, that's some breaking news right there. I didn't even know about. I have to be on the lookout for that. Jacob from Jab Hook Boxing, for those who want to talk the Sweet Science, for those who want to talk movies, let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, and I echo Bo's sentiments. Thanks for the panel, as always, bringing their A game. And shout out to Gus and Scorsese, who left earlier, and all the listeners and whatnot. But I can be found on Twitter, JRATM23. Boxing, movies, I'm your man.
I want to thank everybody in the chat. Go ahead, Daniel. Go ahead, Bo.
No, this is. But I want to give a shout out because it's something rare you get a panel with elderly people. So shout out to Gail and shout out to Mike for being the elderlies on here with us young folks.
And notice how he went on mute, that given that he's older than all of us. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
let him have that. I'm gonna let him have that.
I don't know. I'm not going to compare birth certificates to both.
Wait, but he doesn't have a birth certificate, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, those Cuban birth certificates, we've had a discussion about those. Damn.
Indeed. I want to thank folks in the chat for joining us on the live show. Sean and Quantum. I want to thank Scorsese for joining us on the show earlier. If you want to talk boxing with him, you can check him out on his YouTube G Plus stuff over at Low Place at hashtag MLPF. You want to check him out on Twitter, you can follow him on Twitter at my low place. At my low place, that's at MYLOWPLACE. For those who want to talk the sweet science, music, fitness with me, you can check me out on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at BrotherJR76, as I said to begin the show. If you want to check out all things about Pound for Pound Boxing Report, the blog page is the place to go. P4P Boxing Report. .wordpress.com. Again, if you want to check out the channels and the pages on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, G Plus, you can check that out on the Riley page. You can also check out links to where to listen to the show: SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Player FM, as well as Mixcloud. As I said during the show, I probably will not do a show next week, so I'll more than likely do a show in 2 weeks. And at that time, we will do a recap of Parker and Joshua Parker, excuse me. Alex Pavek is going to be fighting on that undercard, as well as Ryan Burnett. And we will also more than likely do a preview of junior middleweight unification bout between Erislandy Lara and Jared Hurd. Rematch between Caleb Truax and James DeGale on that undercard, as well as Julian Williams on that undercard. So we will be talking about those fights. So for Gail from Communities Digital News, both from Truth and Facts About Boxing, Scorsese, Daniel of the Inscriber, Jacob of Jab Hook. I'm your host, Michael. This has been episode 202 of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. Again, thank everybody for joining us on the live show, in the chat. If you like what you heard, click that subscribe button, hit that like button. Check us out on iTunes, subscribe there. Check us out on SoundCloud. Leave a review on iTunes. 5-star review will get read on the show. I would love your commentary on SoundCloud as well. So yeah, episode 202 of Pound for Pound Box Report. We will see you more than likely in 2 weeks, not next week, but in 2 weeks. Everybody have a good evening. Good night.